Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock. We're going to start our Harrisville City Council. Welcome you here and appreciate you being here tonight. We're having an opening ceremony by Councilmember Wilhelmsen.
Please all rise. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our Heavenly Father, we bow our heads humbly at this time and are grateful for the opportunity of meeting as a city council and members of our city here. We ask for thy Spirit to be here as we discuss these things, that we can have clarification and understanding in the things that will be discussed tonight that are on the agenda. We're indeed grateful for the blessings that we have in this free country and the opportunities to be able to express ourselves. We pray for thy safety throughout this night. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. Amen.
Thank you. Moving on to our consent items. This is the approval of the meeting minutes from July 9th, 2024 and August 6th, 2024 as presented. Council, have you had a chance to read those? Any changes or corrections or not?
Other than some errors that are there that we can't change. Where it says recreation.
I'm sorry, what?
Where it says recreational on the bottom.
Oh, okay.
No, that's why I said it's a jest.
Okay.
Sorry.
Is there a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the meetings from minutes of the meetings of July 9th and August 6th as presented.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. All right, sometimes we get to do really fun things here. We have a couple of openings on the Planning Commission. Recently, people have moved out and gone on to different things. So I had the opportunity to interview. We had some great applications. I had some interviews, and I have two applicants here tonight that I'm going to present to you for ratification. I'm going to have them come up and introduce themselves. First, we'll have Isaac. You want to come up to the podium? Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Isaac Thomas. I lived in Harrisville for just about 3 years and love it here. I teach at Ben Lomond High School. I'm a business teacher there for the past 8 years and have a bachelor's degree in business marketing and a master's degree in communications. And so anyway, but have a passion for city government, city planning. So found this, hope that it'd be a good way to get involved, and so I was excited to apply to be on the City Planning Commission and excited to be a part of it.
All right. Thank you. Any questions for Isaac?
Actually, I do.
Yes.
So what are your goals and what are your, kind of what your vision is for the city of Harrisville?
My goals to start off will be to ask as many questions and learn as much as I possibly can. We'll know that the decisions we make are a big deal and will affect the citizens of the community for the next 50 to 100 years. And I know we're going through a period of a lot of growth right now, and will be for the foreseeable future. So the decisions we make, the things we allow or don't, will be a big deal. So the goal is hopefully that as we grow, we can do it in a way that it matches the vision of the master plan of the community and meets the goals of the citizens that live here the best we can.
Do you see us more of a rural community, or do you see that we need to bring businesses in? What are your thoughts on that?
It seems like Harrisville's making the transition. Obviously, it's a bedroom rural community for a long time, but with all the new development happening, it's quickly becoming a suburban bedroom community, and so just making sure we have the right mix of housing. Both abilities to own your own home and rent your own, whatever your needs may be. Make sure the opportunities are extended to people, and that the businesses we allow are meeting people's needs are going to be our most important priorities.
Thank you.
Anything else for Isaac? All right. Sit Didn't see for a second. Angie Frankham.
Hi, I'm Angie Frankham. I was not prepared for a presentation. I have lived officially in Harrisville for 7 years now. The previous 8.5, I was Harrisville adjacent, behind the old golf course, and my back fence was the city line between Harrisville and North Hawkins. So I feel like I've been a part of Harrisville for about 15 years now. We have enjoyed raising our 5 children here. We're still raising 5 children here. And I just look forward to being more involved with the municipality. I do a lot of volunteer work in the community with the schools and other community organizations. I have a background primarily in education, and I just look forward to learning more. I think a lot of my goals align with my new counterpart here with asking a lot of questions. I emailed our recorder the other day and said, hey, which parts of the municipal code should I dig into first? And sent those to me. So I'm doing a lot of reading, and I will be doing a lot of reading and asking a lot of questions as I get my feet under me serving here as well.
Any questions for her?
Just the same, but you kind of explained your goals a little bit, but we know each other, so I just
Yes.
kind of, what are your thoughts on this rural community and how we need to move forward?
I think Harrisville's in a really interesting place in the county where we are on a lot of critical routes for things like schools and other connections, and we need to do have a lot of conversations and collaboration about what is best going to meet our needs. Honoring the history that we have here and people that are many generations into Harrisville living, and others who are coming in and we want to keep here. We want Harrisville to grow. We want Harrisville to grow responsibly and sustainably, and we want to maintain some of those things. I love that I can drive 1.5 miles to Smith's, and I love that I have horses across the street. So how can we balance and bridge those things? And I think it takes a lot of thoughtful conversations and making sure that we don't have our views skewed by what we are most comfortable with just on our streets. It's important for us to reach out to neighbors and people who aren't neighbors but are still in the community, and their opinions matter too.
Thank you, Angie. All right, I'm going to present those 2 names to the council. Isaac Thomas and Angie Frankham to be on the planning commissioner. Would someone like to ratify that?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. You both are on the planning commission. Did we check, it's a 4-year term? How many did we check that?
We did, and I will have that at the oath of office tomorrow.
All right, so the planning commission tomorrow night, you'll be given your oath of office, and we'll get that other information to you also. Thank you. We have another new hire in the city. Chief Wilson, do you want to take this? Jackie, do you want to take it?
We have a new victims advocate. We'd just like to introduce her and swear her in tonight. Linda, if you can come up.
Would you care to explain what a victims advocate is? One of you?
So a victims advocate will help in all kinds of victims within the city. Not really. I can turn around. So what they're there for is to help victims in crimes or domestic violence or anything else. So if somebody's a victim, they would reach out for resources or any kind of help to our victims advocate.
Okay, thank you. Linda, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes. My name is Linda Quispe. I just recently graduated from Weber State University with my bachelor's in criminal justice this April, which was really exciting to find a place where to work after only 3 months. So I'm really proud that I was able to get here. Really thankful for Jackie, for the chief, for everyone that was involved in the hiring process. And I'm just grateful to be here, and as I told them, I'm ready to start working, and I'm just really thrilled to be here, part of Harrisville.
All right, wonderful. Jackie, go ahead.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Linda Quispe,
I, Linda Linda Quispe,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United
the
States,
Constitution of the State of Utah,
the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge
and that I will discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my
with
office
fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations. When you're done signing, I'd like you and the chief and Jackie to stay up here and your family can take pictures, okay? Okay. If your family wants to come up here, you can get a good picture.
You guys want to come and get a picture with her?
No, I think it's great. It's awesome.
We love this on this side.
Yes, no, I love the cigars. It's amazing.
The tallest
Congratulations. All right, item number 6, which is our business items. First of all, we're having our youth council update. Hunter Ferguson, come up and you can adjust that back, will you?
I was gonna say, I'm Hunter Ferguson. I live across the street from here, like across the street, literally. Yeah, I was in San part of HYC. I think I'm the treasurer. Yeah, pretty sure. We did a few things that we really helped out on. One of them was the senior luncheon that we held at the cabin just down the road from here. We just helped out cook things. I personally helped cook out almost all of the burgers and just try to meet in with as many seniors as possible. Try to show them that we got good youth building in Harrisville. We also helped clean up and help set up just about everything. Another thing we did was moving the park, which I think we did 2 of the movies. I forgot what the movies were, but we did it twice. Helped set up the screens some of the games before, so if people showed up early, they could have something to do until it got dark enough in the movie. We mainly helped out filling out small bags of popcorn, just handing it out for free, and water bottles, and kids loved that. And then obviously helped to clean up after. But yeah, we're definitely building a little bigger youth, so every bit slowly. I think it's gonna only get better from here as the population grows in Utah, or in Harrisville. Any questions?
I hear that you helped out the fair as far as the Harrisville presentation. with the
I
signs.
wasn't there.
But I know some did.
Yes, we did help. We gave some pictures to
Shaw Singleton, and she was able to put our pictures on this big display for the for Harrisville City, and so it highlighted our youth city council very well. I thought we do have a picture of it, but we'll send it to you.
You know, I
Anything
looked
else?
at it, it was a very nice display. Represented Harrisville very well.
Always exciting when we can come up with
Yeah. So thanks to Michelle too, to you guys.
Michelle Singleton. Thank you, Hunter.
Any other
Appreciate your
questions?
work. Anything?
What are your goals for this next year?
I play sports, mainly wrestling, only wrestling. Trying to go to state, so yeah, I've been in the gym hard, trying to get better as a person, you know, physically and socially. Just every aspect, trying to be a better person.
So how do you want to relate that to youth city council?
I mean, if you're trying to be better as a person, you got to do it in every aspect. Being better as a person will be a better participation in the city council control. Help.
How do you want to recruit others to come into this great organization that you guys put on?
Just gotta be friends with people. Tell them, hey, you should join this. So I think I got a few people that might join. Might push them over the edge to get them to join.
Good, good.
So
Thanks, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your report.
thank you.
Item B, discussion, possible action to consider Resolution 24-12, which is a resolution providing for the holding of a bond election in the city. Jennie Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. This proposed action item, it has a little history, so we'll just review it for the public and also for the Council's reminder. So in May during our May budget work session, we talked a lot about the proposed City Hall and Public Safety building and the financial status of the existing $9 million bond that we've previously issued for that project and the gap that we needed to close to reach where the construction costs were identified at landing. And the council at that time adopted a resolution for the issuance of up to $10 million on that bond. In June, at our June council meeting, we held the public hearing for that bond, and shortly following that city council meeting, we received a petition on June 14th of 2024 that referred that issuance of bond resolution. There were enough signatures that was certified by the county, which would create the opportunity for that to be placed on the ballot to be voted on. So during our July council meeting, during this discussion, we received feedback from staff. The staff received feedback from the council that you would like to consider a proposal for a new bond. And Marcus, as well as Brandon, are in attendance tonight to answer our questions regarding, and the pivot in this resolution is the bond has been identified as a GO bond, a general obligation bond, and there are several reasons why we've recommended this. The main reason is it comes at a lower interest rate to the residents if it does pass on the ballot, and it also doesn't require the city to hold truth and taxation every year. It would fund itself. I'm not doing a very good job of explaining that, but it would fund itself every year. They would evaluate what the payments are, and they would adjust the property tax rates independent of us having to go through truth and taxation. So those are the two main components of why we identified a general obligation bond would be a better option if it moves forward to the ballot. We encourage any discussion that the council has, and we do have a staff recommendation either that we can provide now, or you can ask questions and we can provide later after your discussion.
Thank you. We do have Marcus Keller here and Brandon Green. Green? Did I say-
Johnson.
Johnson, sorry. It's like that doesn't come out right. We have these gentlemen here tonight if they can answer any of your questions too.
So what is the city's recommendation, is what I would.
So our recommendation at this time, based on public feedback and other things, is to complete the architectural design of the City Hall and the Police Department and not issue any bonds at this time. Complete that, have an idea of what the construction costs might look like, and go forward possibly with a GO bond in the future. But we are concerned that there would not be favorable results at the ballot, and we'd like to get more information to provide based off of those public comments that we received at the June meeting. So our recommendation would be to use current issuance of bond money to pay and complete the architectural design, and then revisit after that.
This might be for Marcus. You gave a percentage of how these things are liable to fail, and how high is that?
Well, I think just based off Harrisville's track record, if everyone remembers when the rec center went to vote, it failed pretty handedly. I don't remember the exact numbers. I want to say it was like 80-20 against. With some of the input that the public's had, I think a lot of the public, as I've talked to them after some of the meetings and so forth, it seems like they just want more information. So I think, as Jennie explained, I really like her plan and I support that. I know based off our last conversation too, as we discussed this, it was, hey, talk to your neighbors, see if this were on a ballot, what do you think that support level might be? It sounds like maybe you all have heard too that not very many people are interested in voting for a bond this year, maybe lack of information, wanting more information, combination of the two, but it's probably, without really good support, it's really hard to pass, because you're really going to have a group of people that are just going to vote no always to any type of tax increase. And then you're just going to have to find the people that really support your project and kind of those people that think it's a worthwhile project to get you over that percentage. Here in Utah, we used to see GO bond elections when I first started 10 years ago. They would pass 75%, 80%. These were school districts in most cases would do it. And even school districts are lucky to get 55%. I mean, they see that as a big victory. So unless you can really get a good grassroots effort from your taxpayers and from your residents, I think GO bonds are just really, really tough. And this one just doesn't seem to, at this time, have the support. Now, like similar to Jennie said, what school districts and other people that go to GO bonds do, this is kind of the unfortunate thing, right? Because I think Harrisville is trying to not spend as much money, so kind of protect the taxpayers by saying, hey, we're not going to spend as much on the architecture work right now and everything else, so that we don't have as much information, because we don't want to invest in something that may not be happening immediately type thing. But I think Jennie is right that I think people want to see it. They want to see the drawings. They want to have really good cost estimates. They want to see kind of the pictures and displays. And kind of looking at your school districts around Utah, they're kind of the leaders on how to pass a GO bond, right? I mean, you go to one of their election campaigns and they've spent a lot of money to sell it to you guys as far as passing that for whatever the projects are. So I think this is the best approach to maybe spend a little of the bond proceeds. Just as you guys remember, we are going to have to discuss the other bonds that we've issued, because we are going to run out of time as far as that. So if we look at a GO bond, that wouldn't be until next year, so the end of 2025. So that means we'd probably have to wind down those other ones that we've issued. The nice thing is they have been earning money. So, but obviously we can't do that forever. You have to eventually spend it. So that's kind of I think probably a discussion for a different day. But just based off your feedback tonight, I think it would be important to see if the council felt confident or thought there was a good chance this would pass. Then we're all happy to do the work. As you know, there's a lot of legwork that goes into it from staff and everyone else. But I think based off some of the concerns and kind of the current temperament of the of residents and taxpayers, it seems like we may just want to get more information prepared and maybe tackle it next year. So
if we did take it to ballot, how much would it cost the city just to get it on the ballot?
That's a hard question for us to answer. It depends on how many entities are running an election. So typically we share the cost. It is a presidential election this year, so we know we wouldn't foot the cost for the entire election, but it depends on how many other entities are going to hold an election. But an estimate, which I don't like to give, but typical election costs are $3,000 to $6,000 depending on how many entities participate in that election. But there would be the associated cost. That's just to pay the Weber County for running the election. There would be the costs of holding the GO bond. We put together the pros and against and the pamphlet and all of the information, the voter information packet, and all of that stuff has to go out as well. So I'm not really prepared to give, and I don't love to give estimates that aren't accurate.
I want to say the rec one was about $7,500, I think, is once it was all said and done. So again, we don't want the city to waste money, right? I mean, we understand that money's very important, and if your direction was to us, no, we got a lot of support, people are on board now, then great. And even then, if all of your neighbors came back and said, yes, we're really excited about this project, it probably is going to be between that 50 and 60% pass rate, if it were to pass, right? I mean, that's how slim these margins are now. They're just so hard to pass GO bonds. That's why originally when we looked at this, we talked about sales tax bonds and lease revenue bonds and different things, just because, if it's an essential needed project, sometimes the city council kind of has to use their discretion on why people voted them in to move forward with those. But for instance, like the recreation facility, something that wasn't essential, let's hear back from the people. So I think we've kind of heard back at this point. We were referendum. We need to either provide more information so people feel comfortable with the city council making that decision, or we need to be prepared again potentially to go back for GO bond next year. So we'll do whatever the council feels is appropriate. Okay. Brandon, anything you'd like to add to that? No.
So I understand as far as the GO bond. My concern is we're sitting on a pot of money right now that's in a bond of $9 million. And you're suggesting that we use part of the architectural plans to take out of that $9 million to basically pay for those, right?
Yeah, there wouldn't be funds out of the general fund that would cover those costs. They're too expensive to cover out of our current budget. So
what
it
are we
would.
looking at to run architectural plans, even just a ballpark?
It's upwards of $500,000 to complete the architectural design.
All right. I guess my concern is if we're holding on to that money, even waiting down the road a year to talk about it, I'm concerned that this money does not fritter away on little things here and there that are needed. But the fact is,
We can't do that.
We can't do that.
It's restricted funds. We can only use it on the project.
Yeah.
so.
Sorry, Brandon, you can
Yeah,
answer it.
Brandon,
You're the legal counsel.
Well, I was just going to say the exact same thing. It's actually protected under the bond documents.
So I'm
and
not
so-
talking just little things. I'm just saying decisions we have to make along the road. Down the road, the public comes back and said, well, you've been spending this money for legitimate things, but now when it goes against, a major project, we don't have what we started with. Does that make sense? I understand what you're saying as far as we can't spend it for this or that.
Yeah, that money can only be spent on this specific project, so it can't be spent on anything else. Any other project, it's only on the project that it was issued for. So, and I mean, that includes the architectural cost, but legally it can only be used for that project.
And that's a decision that would have to be made by council. All of those things along the way, right?
Yeah. And it's held as a trustee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's held right now by a trustee, and so in order to access any of that money, the city would have to provide invoices that show that it was for that specific project before the trustee would even release that money.
So to Marcus's point, we have been earning money on bonds. We've been earning interest on the bonds. So there's the potential that some of the, and to Marcus's credit, he was saying maybe a better discussion later down the road. But if it helps you make your decision tonight, that it's possible some of the interest would pay the architectural costs, and we would be turning in the vast majority of the $9 million.
Yeah, so if we decided, and again, this is my advice to the city council, so we can discuss it however you feel, but if we decided tonight, let's hold off, we're gonna reevaluate, we just wanna get enough information, through some architectural design work, whatever that may be, so that we can really show, well, going into next year, exactly what our plans are, then what we would do is probably recommend to you to go ahead and unwind or pay off that $9 million bond. The nice thing is, as you mentioned before, you've been earning more interest than you've been paying on it right now. So when we go to pay that off, there should be a difference there as far as they're going to say, okay, you owe us $9 million, but you have $9.1 million in the bank. So that should offset some of that expense I think you're worried about too. But I understand also your concern as well. If we're reevaluating this project, I get where you're coming from, and I don't like the idea too, well now we need something else here too, right? Now we need to do this. I think we should really define the scope, and the city council and mayor work with staff to say, okay, this is exactly what we want. We want you to be able to show the renderings, the drawings, we want you to be able to show that type of information, and whatever that number may be, Jennie can work with city council, say, okay, we'll get you this. It sounds like it's in that $500,000 ballpark right now. We can get you an update on how much of the difference that's going to be based off your interest earnings, and then go ahead and start figuring out how to unwind it. And honestly, that was one of the reasons we did these callable anytime. So the nice thing is, if you pay these off early, there is no penalty. So you're not having to pay any type of call premium or anything like that. So we do have some flexibility. Don't feel rushed on this. I feel like we still have a few months to figure this out, but just kind of keep that in the back of your mind on what exactly do we want to take to the residents next year, because as was mentioned, you really don't have enough money in your general fund to do, probably what needs to be done as far as design work and really get into the detail that we've been hearing. But, we can use some of the interest proceeds, maybe some of the bond, pay the rest back. We can show you what that new amortization schedule is going to look like, and it should free up a lot of breathing room for the city as well. So if that's kind of the plan, I feel like that's a good direction, and we can kind of work with staff and city council and mayor over the next couple months to get to that point. So, but it all depends on what you want to do tonight with the GO bond.
So from what I understand, we have the option of finishing the public works building. Is that correct, with some of that money?
So there is a phase 2 of the Public Works building that we pulled out to meet the budget,
Right.
the initial budget. That was included, I believe, in the $9 million issuance.
Yeah, if
So,
it's eligible, it's
yeah.
Sure.
It would be eligible for us to complete the second phase of the Public Works if council felt that was a priority.
So what is the second phase? So
The second phase is a fuel island and vehicle storage for future, mainly future growth. We identified that as future growth and it wasn't necessary at the time of move-in.
Right.
So it was an easy opportunity for us to phase.
Sure.
It will also finish off the second floor
Oh, yes,
for
thank you.
future expansion for public works or other admin offices as
Okay.
needed.
Because that was kind of what I thought that would afford some space.
Yes,
that we
the second
are
floor.
needing.
Mhm.
Okay. Would that alleviate some of the issues that we're currently having with space and ADA and all of those things, or is it?
For city staff, it wouldn't meet the needs of the police department.
Right.
But it would definitely give more office space for city staff.
Would that make anything more available here for the police to meet any of those needs by freeing up any space?
Potentially, we could move. There's a certain presence that people expect at the city hall, so
Sure.
we would have a number of people that would have to be here, but potentially 3, maybe 4 employees could move over there. I believe there's 4 or 5 offices on the second floor of the Public Works building, yeah. So that is an option.
Up to 6 offices.
Oh, 6, okay.
Do we have a ballpark of what that would cost?
Currently, if we do it in conjunction with the current build, it's about $500,000 is what the contractor quoted us. They've been anxious for us to make a decision when they're already staged, or what do they call it?
They're kind of deployed.
Yes, at this point. Yeah, mobilized, thank you. And while they're mobilized, they would give us a discount for that. Otherwise, if we do it at a later date, then they have to charge us that mobilization fee again and do that work. And that would be saying that they would honor the price that we received in December from the contractor. So it may have changed in the time frame that's taken place, but we did hold off on that. We didn't want to move forward without council's direction on that.
And I'm not sure if this is what you're maybe alluding to, but I think however simply we can make the next bond, if that's the direction we go next year, just to say it is just for this project. It's not for this plus public works plus, this. It is just for this project. I think that helps avoid a lot of confusion with potential people that are going to be interested in looking at it.
Any more questions?
There's lots, but not now.
All right.
So basically, one other question, just so I have a clarification. This money here that we're talking about, not the geo bond, but the 9 million, could not be used to supplement expansion here.
No.
Okay, now I want to just get that clarified. It's for the new project and only the new project.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion?
Personally, I think letting it just die, the geo bond. Not wasting the money to put it on the ballot. And just do what we're been talking about. Then that way we can finish some things that we've started. We can get ready and get our ducks in a row. And that way we can come prepared, which I think would make somewhat of a difference. But right now I think it would be really a waste of taxpayer dollars if we were to put that geo bond on the ballot.
But the concern that I would have, even if we were to do a geo bond right now, is that, yeah, we're locking in and saying we need $6 million. We also know what we've run through as far as our back tax, our back record, because of what inflation's caused. Now, I know things are backing off right now, but, is it a hard rock to say $6 million is definitely all we need, or we to turn around and say, oh, we slipped again, just because of the expenses. I understand where we're going here. I just want to make sure that once it's presented to the public, when and where that is, it's clear.
Yeah.
It's very clear, and it's this amount, and this is what we're doing. I think that's where a lot of the confusion has come. It's because there's figures going back and forth. Just like you said tonight, we could have gone up to 10 million. Well, that figure is stuck throughout the whole community. Even though that's not what it is, that's what was stuck because it was talked about in this meeting. And that's what they took out, said we don't want that. So when I talk about being clear, this is the amount, this is what it is, this is what it's for, and this is what we're going for.
But also though, with the understanding that clear is still very cloudy. I mean, for instance, today, Tooele High School, the new Tooele High School.
Sure.
Okay, they just announced that it's running behind and probably going to need an infusion of more cash because it's still costing too much. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we can't put as much clarity as possible.
Sure.
But you can never, there's no way you can be 100% this is the way it's going to be. It's impossible.
I do think it would really help though to finish the architecture so we could get more solidified in what the estimate would look like.
Yeah.
Because that's going to have to come from the money anyway. That's going to have to be part of what we're doing. So if we're really, and we do need it, we all know that. We can't continue in this building. We're not meeting ADA criteria and other things. So we need to move forward and get that done so that we know exactly what we need and we can present that and sell that, which is what everybody's asked us to do. So I think in the spirit of listening to our constituents and trying to provide those more hard numbers, but also be able to move forward, that's where we need to be. And do we need to take some of that money and finish the public works building so we have a little bit of space and wiggle room in the meantime? Maybe. I don't think that would be a bad idea, in my opinion. But I definitely think that we need to move forward with the architecture.
Architecture and finish the public works building. I agree.
You know, if it's going to be 500,000 with some, you know, we have to adjust for the time that's passed and inflation. But those are my thoughts.
So the question here is, we use some of this money to finish off the public works building so it is utilized space, and I think that makes sense. That means that there's a less amount that is turned back in.
Yeah, I think what our key number is, we just need to know how much you're planning to use out of that $9 million, and we can reach out to the trustee and see currently what that balance is right now, so that Jennie kind of understands if there is some interest earnings in there, how much that's going to offset, you know, those expenditures too. But we just kind of need to know what that number is, whether it's, you know, 500,000 or potentially $1 million if you do both of them. But the sooner, well, again, I was going to say the sooner the better, but again, it is earning at a higher rate. But I would just say, let us know probably within the next couple months, because I know it makes me nervous. I'm sure bond counsel is nervous. We just don't want you guys to get in any kind of trouble and get audited for arbitrage reasons pertaining to the bond. So that's why I kind of said if we can just kind of get this figured out within the next month or 2 months, just, you know, what exactly is it? Is it 800,000? Great. We'll update the numbers. We'll notify the bondholders that they're going to get paid off, and that, you know, then we'll restructure the debt so that there's only 800,000 remaining. We can absolutely do something like that. But just as a reminder, and I was just talking to Brandon too, regardless of, you know, how you're planning to vote, you're probably still wanting to vote on this, whether it is yes or no. And then I think no, but just kind of from what we've heard, the indicative that we're going to be looking at going into next year, just planning to move forward.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I don't have any questions. I think that's just kind of my recommendation and thoughts to the council, is that we finish that and that we move forward with the architecture, and that we kind of can make a contingency to pay back the $8 million or whatever we deem is what the cost is going to be, and then get our ducks in a row and present it and sell it like we've been asked to.
Yeah.
All right, so with that, we would probably need a motion, and the way you're leading, we need a motion to deny. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we deny resolution 2412, a resolution providing for the holding of a bond election in this city. I'll second it.
All right, motion and a second. So when you say aye, you're approving the denial. Got it? Councilmember Weiss?
Aye.
Councilmember Jackson?
Aye.
Councilmember Christensen?
Aye.
Councilmember Fawcett?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilhelmsen?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item C, which is our fiscal year 2024 budget discussion. Jennie Knight again.
Thank you, Mayor. So we'll roll right into continued budget discussion for tonight. So last week we took several public comments during our public hearing, and staff has been working over the last week to identify additional options for the council. So my apologies, the presented budget that is hard copy is because it's fresh off the press this afternoon, as we've made as many adjustments as we can to give recommendations to the council. So for the public's purposes, this is available. We had it put on our website under the amended packet immediately after we received it. So it is available online. I'll pull it up on the big screen as well. But we we've been poring over based on the feedback that we received. There was two questions I wanted to address right off the bat with the budget that came out of the public hearing. One was from council. There was a discrepancy in the advertisement of the truth in taxation notice at 5.25%, and on property tax notices, it was listed at 5.11%. When we reached out as staff to find out why that discrepancy existed, the state does not do any consideration for growth in their projections. So the 5.25% was what we requested, and they do not do any projection for growth. The county does do a projection for growth. And so the 5.11 is after they've done their projected growth number. That's what the 5.11%, that's why there's a discrepancy. Sometimes it matches. This year it did not for us, and so that's why but be clear to the public, the 5.11 would be what the increase would be for them. What's on their tax notice is what would be the increase. So we wanted to clarify that. The second question that staff wanted to address came from a question posed that our budget total amount was less than we requested last year. And why were we imposing a property tax when our total budget number was less this year than last year? So there are certain funds in the city's budget that aren't affected by the general fund, but they have to be listed when we're expending them. One of them is the Safe Sidewalk Grant money, the $200,000 that the city expended to do the turnout on 2450 and also completing the north side of 2000. We received UDOT funds for that, federal funding, to do the Safe Sidewalk Grant. That has to show in our budget as an expenditure and a revenue, but that's not necessarily general fund related. So there was another $58,000 in grants that was the playground equipment for the ramp grant, thank you, that we had a matching fund. And then there were park impact fees appropriated or set aside in last year's budget that we pulled out. We did not expend those. We don't know the timing of Dixon Creek Park development and Ben Lomond, and we're utilizing park impact fees to pay for the park improvements in some of our projects, not all of them, but some of our projects. And so we have to appropriate that money at the budgeting time if we expect to spend it. We did not spend that. We pulled it out of the budget. We don't anticipate the projects being far enough along this year for us to expend those funds. So there's a larger discrepancy between what we actually pulled out than the number that's showing on those final numbers. So that's the explanation as to why. So the total number of the budget will fluctuate depending on appropriation money that we receive, expenditures out of our impact fees. That's all related, but it's not general fund money. Those are restricted funds that have to be used on specific projects. So we wanted to clarify that up front. So what we have identified as department heads for budget expenditure adjustments, we have identified that we can cancel our live 911 subscription in our police department. We can also eliminate, we were trying to implement our bike patrol for our community policing. We can also eliminate that. These are all possible eliminations. Obviously, these were things the city wanted to move forward with, but if they're just optional things that the council can cut out. The new baseball, softball equipment, we're in need of replacing some equipment and buying more equipment, and that we just have to get by with what we have. And the community's forestry, that's the removal of dead trees and the planting of our new trees. But obviously it doesn't have to be done, but we're trying to beautify our parks, we're trying to do improvements, but those are things that we've identified. The miscellaneous event overflow parking, as our fall festival has grown, the city owns a piece of property near the park that we've tried to utilize as additional parking to keep people off Highway 89. We were trying to buy some, I believe, road base, things like that to make it a little bit easier to utilize. And obviously we could pull that out if the council wants us to. Additional revenue adjustments that we've identified. There's a vehicle fee in lieu that is based on vehicle tax. And that can fluctuate depending on what the tax is. There's also interest earnings. Because the interest rates are higher, we're getting more interest on our accounts. Those are, in my opinion, hard to swallow as far as guarantees because they fluctuate. We don't control those tax rates and we don't control the interest rate by any means. And so we are basing that on some numbers that we've received this last year to try and project our revenue, but as we always do, we try to use a historic base to project our revenue rather than just using last year's number. So we usually go back 7 or 8 years and see what the median rate is versus just what we received last year because those rates fluctuate. But those are some options that staff has come up with that we feel like the council can make a decision on they're just things that we want to be able to do for the city, but as we received that public input last week, we certainly could go status quo and not do these things that are listed. Some other things that I wanted to bring to the council's attention that are kind of moving parts with the budget. Items like our email encryption software that we're now having to look at. We have to send large files to the county attorney's office. Those things need to be encrypted and protected. Those things come at a cost to the city. Also, BCI requirements are requiring 2-factor authentication now for our officers to sign on to their computers. And so we've got those types of things. Another item that we have identified with our IT group is our computers are going to need to be moved off of Windows 10 within the next 10 months to a year, or even maybe up to 24 months. And what we've done as staff is we try to stagger those replacements. So every year we buy 1 or 2 computers to replace them and stay on a rotation. But if under the council's direction you wanted us to wipe those out, we would do that, and then we would have to purchase them all in a lump sum at the future. But these are just options. We're trying to give as many options as we can to the council. So those are some of the things that we've identified. So what our recommendation is based on some of this additional revenue that we can project, and also whatever council decides to identify here, we could maintain our certified tax rate at our current rate, not impose an additional tax on top of that. It would come at a cost to the residents at our median price of $4.16, about approximately $3 a household per year. So it would be a 0.94 increase. And we feel like with that additional revenue, this is around $10,000 that I can calculate on, or you can see there the 978 to 988. Around that would be our revenue from maintaining our rate, and we could implement whatever council gives us as direction on these budget adjustments. All or some, or there are a couple other adjustments in the budget. One main one I wanted to bring to your attention as well, in that we've included in the capital projects, we are doing a water line project for the new road. It will be paid out of the capital projects fund and reimbursed through the appropriations funds that we received to put the new 1750 North Road in. That's federal funding that the city's receiving. That will be reimbursed to the city, but we will be paying that out of the capital projects to complete that project. So that was an amendment to the tentative budget that I wanted to bring to your attention.
It's an in and out.
It will be, yes, in the long run.
It's an out and in.
It's an out and then they'll come back in, yes.
How much are we looking at that?
It's a $250,000 project.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
so that was a change from the tentative adoption.
Any ideas or comments or conversation?
So the 1.5
Is that what it is? Increase? Can you go back? Yeah.
So this is maintaining our rate. If we don't adopt a different certified tax rate, it'll drop to the 0.001486. If we maintain our rate, we would do a slight 0.94 increase to maintain the rate that we had last year. It would increase our revenue slightly, and then we would have to implement some of these other adjustments to identify revenue available to do any of the three things we talked about last week with PR, code enforcement, planning, any of those additional services the city's trying to attain.
But that also, go back to the upper slide, that also takes these things out of the budget.
So on the community foresting, I know we've got some eyesore trees that are there by the park. And I talked to Brian about that. That's that $6,000 to take those trees out.
It's the
Or other things.
his email to me, and I'm sorry he couldn't be here this evening. This is used to remove the dead diseased trees, including stumps, as well as purchasing the replacement in additional trees and shrubs and flowers. It's also used to pay the professionals to remove the structure-threatening trees where staff isn't comfortable performing those duties. Sometimes our trees are larger, precarious, and we pay professionals to come in. So that $6,000 is to address that we would have to remove from the budget, yes.
Well, that's one of the concerns that I get from a lot of constituents is they don't see even little improvements in the park, and that would be an improvement in the park. Taking it out, plus I think it's also a wise thing to be proactive. If it's a diseased tree, we know what's going to happen with the other trees that surround it eventually. Yeah, and that's a progressive thing. So anyhow, it's a comment that I pass on. I understand the need for that, but once again, what do you want? Because
We're trying to provide as many options as we can for you to make those decisions with.
So the point is that the rate that was proposed by the state, which is what, the 5.11, is that what that is? No, that's
This is what it would drop to
that's the
if
rate
we do
we're
not.
talking.
This is to maintain our rate.
Okay. But the 5.11, would that allow some of this stuff to come back in?
Yes, if we impose a higher than the 0.0015, yeah. We were trying to give you some options to not have to impose the 5.25 that we advertised. If you want to do less of a property tax, these are some ideas that we have identified that we could just go status quo another year and get by. We've been trying to do incremental increases since we did 2 years ago our large property tax, and we received a lot of feedback from the residents that they never wanted to experience that again, and we were trying to implement small increments of change to the because as you are all aware, 2 years ago when we did that to balance the budget. We didn't get ahead with that. We balanced the budget. And so at this point, we were trying to prepare and identify ways that the city can move towards the future, but these are identifiable options to take out of the budget, to not impose a property tax increase. Or minimize.
So some of the other budget points, I was kind of going through here, and it looks like we've had some huge jumps in things in the since 2020. I mean, I know that that's before and after the increase as well, that 166%. But from 2020 to 2021, the administrative budget was $300,062, and now it's $687. That's kind of a pretty big jump from those years. It's a 47% increase. Where do those funds go? What are these?
So the administrative budget, you can see the entire administrative budget if you go down to the page here. We'll show you the largest jump back between those years was the market study that was done for salaries and wages, and also we were down multiple employees. for 18 months to 2 years. We had minimal staff because that was one of the measures implemented prior to the property tax increase, was to reduce staff as much as possible. And so we were on a skeleton staff at that point. So when we implemented and hired those positions back and did our market study, it increased that budget. That was probably the largest jump that you'll see is between those years.
Okay. When we did that market analysis or market study, where do we fit with what we pay our employees?
We've done one every year. We haven't needed to present it to council because with our COLA increases, since we did the market study previously, we've been able to maintain. So we've been able to keep our wages competitive with other surrounding cities. The first year we did the market study, we did it for geographical size and population. We were under the average pay for those cities, and so we implemented the first market study increase. But what we found is our employees were not leaving for small cities out in the middle of rural communities. They were leaving for Pleasant View or the county, places in Weber County. So the second time we did the market study, we identified what our rates were within Weber County, and we brought our wages up to be competitive here. And since then, we've implemented the COLA raises, and we've been able to retain our employees until very recently we have lost some police officers to other agencies.
Right. And with the COLA increase, is that a set percentage or is that assessed each year?
It's assessed each year as well. So we get the average of what everyone else is issuing as a COLA, and we have been implementing, that's been the last 2 years. So this is a new practice since we did the large property tax increase to try to maintain our staff.
Right. Okay. And, sorry, go ahead.
Is our merit still based on performance?
Yes, we also adopted performance evaluations in all departments in the last 2 years. And so to receive a merit raise, an employee has to go above and beyond their normal job expectations to receive that merit and their performance evaluations. There have been some performance evaluations, particularly in our police department, that had been taking place prior to that, but across the board, across the city, it's been the last 2 years we've implemented to make sure that our employees are receiving those.
So do we have a merit and a COLA?
Yes.
Is that typical for a city government?
Yes.
And what is the merit percentage?
This budget included a 3% COLA and up to 2% merit if the employee's evaluation warrants that. So again, it can't be received just by performing regular job responsibilities. The employee has to have received some type of certification or has to have been doing something above and beyond their normal job responsibilities to earn that merit.
Okay. But the COLA, the 3% is just a given?
Yes.
How many city employees do we have?
Total? You'd think I'd know that off the top of my head, but it's changed. With Linda, I want to say 30. Do you have that off the top of your head, Jessica?
I'm thinking 30,
I want to say
31.
30, 31 with Linda joining our crew recently.
And I know we have Christmas bonuses, and
Yes.
that's about $500 per, is it per employee?
Per employee.
And I don't want to do like a jelly of the month club type situation, but is that something we can look at reducing or cutting?
That would be up to the council. One thing, the history with that is the city used to have a Christmas party, and those funds were used to pay for the Christmas party. A number of years ago, we implemented the bonus rather than paying for a party because the employees appreciate that recognition versus having a single event. And we typically do a potluck.
Works great.
For our city party, so that our employees are receiving that benefit as a payout, but that would be up to council
I see
discretion.
that as, roughly a $15,000-ish place where we could maybe put in a city planner. I work in medicine, and so doesn't matter what my degree is or how much I work real hard. We don't have those, so I just
But you receive your COLA and it.
actually I don't. In 5 years I've had one 3%, one 5% raise
On your insurance?
on everything. That's because we're differently based. We do not receive COLA.
So we do
So-
try to focus as government, local government. You'll find across the board that we try to focus on culture, and because typically we lose employees to neighboring cities because once you're certified, you can do the job for anybody.
Right.
So
Yeah.
culturally, we try to offer some benefits to keep our employees here. So as the administrator, it makes me a little nervous when we talk about benefits that we're offering to our employees because we've done that in the past and it has put us in tight, yes,
Right.
tight
I
situations.
understand.
But we will do whatever the council recommends.
Just with one of the last meetings, it was
Sure.
looked over what fat can we cut from the budget, and
Absolutely, I can
it's
appreciate
definitely
that.
worth the discussion, I think.
So we looked at, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
So we looked at some of those things earlier, a few years back, and some of those things that we did cut were city celebrations. Anything that we did that was, in the city that cost money, we pulled those back, and now anything, the only one we have is the Fall Festival, and we have those as donations. So, or I guess we have the Easter egg hunt, but that's a donation too. We don't have any of those things, so we cut all of those things.
Yeah.
And that's, people ask, why don't you have Harrisville Days? Why do you have those? Well, because we cut those things back.
Right, and I know that people are upset about that, but we can't have it all.
No, we can't have it all. So what I'm saying, we have done this.
Right,
in the
that's what I'm
past.
saying, we have to give and take. It's just one of those things. So, one of the other things, I think with, sorry, I don't mean to take all the time, guys.
You're fine.
With the youth council, is their budget, I think I saw $6,000, is that, what do they do with that money?
Our youth city council advisor was here earlier. They give your reports every month. They'll give a report, or not maybe every month, but a couple of times a year they'll give a report on what they do. They did a large conference this year that took quite a bit of a chunk of that money, and then they pay for their projects, the things that they're doing in the community. I have encouraged them to look at fundraising options and donations from businesses to solicit more funds if they want to increase their budget. I've kind of held that the city general fund shouldn't be supporting the totality of the program. But if council has a different opinion on that, please let me know, because I'm happy to implement whatever your preference is.
Let me add a little bit to that, as I've tried to work a little bit with Mrs. Hanson. That money, from what I understand, basically helped to pay the tuition for these youth city council to go to their seminar. They paid their own way in gas and food, and that came out of their own personal pockets. So all it did was pay for registration. And then they've also used that for other things. I know that there's a stipend in there for Liz, and she's, as far as running the program, because it's not a salary. But that's primarily what it is. I know that they're talking about doing some of these fundraisers. Some of the ones that they've had haven't necessarily fit well. But I do know that they could go out and do that. So as the city, as the youth city council becomes a lot more noticeable in front of people, then that brings in a lot of people as far as teaching citizens. They've also used it for going down to legislation meetings and helping to pay for those dinners. So if the program is active, it's a pretty decent fee when it comes down to it if we're using them here. But they try to be supportive that they are a youth-oriented program as far as service. That's the bottom line. But representatives and things like that, they're excited to teach. And I think that's what it is. How much money do you want to put in to teaching the youth how to run and how a city government operates? That's what that money is used for.
Sure.
Yeah, just an explanation.
Yeah.
Am I on target or am I off, Michelle?
No.
Okay.
And then one of the other things that I know that there was recently a meeting where there were some of the city council members present in a private home, and one of the feedback items that I got was that local businesses are willing to contribute money and in-kind goods, things like that. Is that something we could have them do and solicit to supplement some of that? Well, I mean, if they're still willing to give, you know, if they're upset enough at what we're doing that they're saying that they're willing to give those things, are we, you know, what are we doing to explore that?
I don't think we have before. The only other time I was always involved with Heritage Days and everything, I always did the fundraising. I always did the going to businesses. I raised a lot of money over the years, and I think that has been lacking. I've done that for the Fall Festival. I've gotten sponsors for that, but I don't know if anybody else would volunteer to do that. I've called on many people over the years to volunteer for an hour here and an hour there. I've always had good responses for that, but I haven't done that as mayor. I think people, you know, we had a good showing when, I'll just call her out, Michelle Singleton said she wanted to help. I said, okay, would you help with the booth?
Came to my mind too.
She came, yep, and helped with the booth out at the fair. So if people want to help, I will call on them to help. So if you feel like that's an option, the thing that has got to be looked at during that is that if they're a representative of the city, or if they're going to come and represent the city, we need to be aware of it. One, that's the city. We need to have just some tabs on what is going on out there if they are representing the city.
Right, it needs to be under our direction.
Yes. A lot of that, a lot of that comes when people want to volunteer for projects in the city. That's an issue that we have to take care of because of liability and other things like that.
Right. I just.
So when we do receive donations, we do need to know where they want them donated. So if it's for the Shop with a Hero, if it's the Easter egg hunt, if it's the Fall Festival, we do need specifics on what they're donating so we can earmark that money.
Yeah. Is that something we can put on the website to be able to have a donation area?
We can put the information there, absolutely, but to receive the funds, we would do that here, yes. But yes, that could be on our list if the council prioritizes website.
Right, yeah.
So back a little bit, the 5.11, what will that bring the total to a year on a $416,000?
That was on my initial slide from last week that I don't know if I brought up. Sorry that you're going to have to look at my unorganized
It was
mind.
$17. Well,
Was it
including
$17?
the $2 here, it was $17.59.
Yeah, $17.39 approximately.
$17.39.
That's just
what I
an
thought
estimate.
It was. That's the estimate.
That's the
because it'll
estimate.
go down on homes that are not at 416,000.
Yes, that's a
And then it'll
median.
go up a little bit.
It's the median price of a Harrisville home.
So
That's
by
what
doing the
county-
5.11, the
No.
things,
I'm sorry.
the things that you're talking about that you can take out would be able to stay.
Correct.
Are all those things unnecessary or something that we need, like the 911 Live? Is that something that is vital?
That's a good tool for the police. It allows officers to be in their car when a 911 call comes in. They can actually hear the call, so they have a little more information when responding. Is it nice? Yes. Can we do without it? Yes. We've done without it before. That's something that we could get back at a later date if we needed it. The server's set up now. It's a year-to-year subscription. It's a subscription based. Our current subscription ends in September. So if that was something we wanted to bring back at a later date, we could do that.
But it's something they use.
Yeah, they use it, but it's just another tool, and we've done our job without it before, and we can do it either way. I mean, it's It's not a necessity, it's nice to have.
Okay. What about the uniforms and stuff, the equipment?
The bike patrol for community policing, that was to make a presence in our community with the bike patrol on our events and other things. Obviously, I'll defer to the chief on what
So
the plan was.
we own 2 bikes for bike patrol. We haven't used them for quite a while, but that would cover some new safety equipment and be able to, when 2 people are on, they could ride the neighborhoods on a bike and make for a little bit different with vehicle birds and stuff like that coming up. If they see a car drive down the road, they're obviously going to hide. If a bike's coming down the road, they don't realize that's happening. That was something we were going to start implementing this year, but again, we can hold off this year and look at it again next year.
And the softball equipment is
So,
bad?
yeah, and I'm sorry that Brian's not available to answer that better this evening, but there are a number of equipment items that need to be replaced, and that was to replace the equipment and to purchase new uniforms or shirts for the teams and hats that go with that program. So he would not replace that, and he would just keep what we have.
But that's something we could possibly solicit funds for.
Possibly.
And then I just have one more question, if that's okay. With our reserve fund, what is that available to cover? Because I know last year we had to move money over for the trash fund to cover. What is available to come out of that fund?
So that goes, well, a certain percentage of that, the fund reserve goes to our savings that we're allowed to save a certain amount. Anything beyond that goes to our debt service. We're putting that towards paying off our public works bond as quickly as possible.
Gotcha. Okay.
Are we currently making any payments on the $9 million bond right now?
Yes. We have been making payments since the issuance in 2023.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Have we been able to use the interest that we're making to pay them, or are we coming out of other funds?
What's that? I'm sorry. Have we used interest to pay the bond payments on the $9 million? So we've just let the interest accrue.
Okay.
So how do we pay off the $9 million if we decide to go that way?
There's the $9 million is just sitting there, and we've been accruing interest on the $9 million. So you have $9 million, and then you have bond reserves, which is the money that we've been transferring into an account separate to pay those bond interest and principal payments. So that fund has been paying it off, but the $9 million is sitting there. So
If we don't do anything with it, we can give it back. And I guess that's where we've been paying this money. With what?
With
Franchise
transfers
tax?
from, transfers, interest earnings, that kind of stuff off the bonds.
So does that money become available in usage in our budget?
No, it is restricted to that project. So you could use the interest earnings on the $9 million specifically for the architecture, but for anything else, you cannot use any money from that $9 million. Interest earnings or anything, it's restricted to that project.
I know you had posed a question previously, Grover, regarding if we were to turn the $9 million back in, what would we use the money we've been paying the bond with? Is that what you were
I guess what I'm
questioning?
saying is, there's got to be money that's paying the bond.
Right. So,
Okay, so when the $9 million goes away,
so that's what Marcus would help us identify if we decide to go that route and turn the $9 million in. As we've talked about, we've been working on our capital facilities plan to identify these projects that the city needs in the future so that we don't find ourselves in this situation again. And so we'd have some staff recommendations when we get to that point. But
money can be applied towards that.
yes, that would be staff's recommendation, is that we save, as has been asked of us, to prepare for the future rather than borrow. But you know, that's a different discussion, right? Than this evening.
So let me ask a question. With the three things that the citizens have said they want, if we stay at the 0.94, what are the odds of us getting those things, those people?
The three key.
The three key, the planning, the website, and the city inspector.
Well, even with the 50,000, we weren't going to be able to do all three of them. So we definitely need council's input tonight to tell us and give us direction of where you want us to prioritize. And we will start and go as far as we can with the funds that are available to meet whatever priority level you identify you'd like us to start with. So if you want us to do the website, we'll start with the website, and then if there's additional funds, we'll go to the next priority. But we certainly wouldn't be able to do all three of them with the proposed increase, let alone if we reduce it. But we will do what the council wants us to do. We will do our best at what the council wants us to do.
So the 5.11 versus the 5.25 was what was proposed, so that money would be there.
To do one of the three, or possibly two, if depending on what the costs
So
are.
5.11, that's the increase that we're talking about, keeping this in. So could some of this be still manipulated around even though they went in?
Sure.
So there could be adjustments within. I mean, the question was brought up last week when we were in truth and taxation. You know, somebody always believes that there's money that's not slush, but it's fat money. It's padded money. I don't see padded money here. I see basically money that's being used for maintaining and operations is what I would call it. And so the only way that we start working ahead is if we do a slight increase, to use this money wisely to help and aid. My concern was communications. You know, as we talk about that, I don't think it's a lack of communication, but there still is a communication gap. That needs to be always improved and brought up. I mean, it's forced me out of my position that I don't go to Facebook, but I go to Facebook now because I've been watching what's going on and the things that have been going on. Well, I've been ignorant about that, but there are a lot of people who now are putting information back. So I know how hard this staff works at trying to communicate. And my hat's off to everybody that's doing that. So I'm saying is if we're going to progress a little bit ahead, I think there has to be a little growth. And where are we now as far as population? I know we're over 7,000, aren't we?
We're, depending on who you ask, we're
22.
We're slightly
24.
under or slightly over 7,000 residents.
And we're anticipating more every year.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And I realize that the state is, what you said, the state doesn't anticipate growth, the county does.
So they don't include that projection in the property tax. So the state doesn't include any projected growth. So they're basing it on our last year's numbers. The county does project some growth. So that's where the discrepancy between the 5.25 and the 5.11 exists, is the county is projecting a slight increase in growth and the state is not. But what was on the residents' property tax notice as they received in the mail is what the cost would be if you move forward with our advertised rate.
Thank you. Can you go back to that page and let me look at that one more time? 5.1 and the 5.2. So the $3 a month increase is monthly.
No, that's annual.
It's annual.
Annual. So $3 a year.
And then the $17.
That's to maintain, and then 17 to increase.
Yep.
Is a year.
So $17 a year. So what an individual said, I just have to do without a can of pop a week. That's what he told me. All right, thank you very much.
other discussion? Anything more?
No. We just need a lot of direction in the next one.
Yeah, okay. All right, if there's no more discussion, I think we're ready for a motion, but staff does need quite a bit of information in this motion. All right, you're gonna need to say everything that you need, all right?
Everything we need
As far as
far
point, if the proposed
keeping
interest.
and not keeping.
So we would need you to identify what you want to do with the certified tax rate and where you want us to prioritize those funds if you're trying to meet one of the 3 key needs on this. And then we would need to know if you want us to do any budget adjustments to the expenditures. The new tentative budget you have in front of you already includes those projected revenue amounts.
Okay. So what would you say is a priority number 1 out of those 3?
I'm kind of a code enforcement person, but I think it should be control and kind, kind of take them to the next level where there's where it's not complaint based, but just going after the real eyesore nuisance type stuff. That would be my recommendation.
I would have to say city planner would be, because we can't continue without a direction and have things kind of hodgepodge together. If we have an overall plan and people actively trying to bring in businesses and other sources of revenue and tax base, that's not going to happen without a city planner. Code enforcement is important, and I have a bunch of animals around my house that I really don't want, but that's something I'm willing to live with if I know that we have future growth of other things going on and coming.
I'm caught between a rock and a hard place because I know what communications will do, but it's, as it's been already pointed, you can get the information out in front, but if you don't study it, it doesn't do you any good. At the same time, making sure that the information is out and available to the public where you can teach them is an important part. And I think part of a progressiveness in the city needs to be making sure that the people are aware of the quality of lifestyle we have here. What we're trying to do to promote Harrisville City. It's not just what we have, but what we can give. And that costs money too, and I know that. But I agree also here that as new projects are here, we need somebody in that can help control what's going on in these projects. So the city planner is very important. And I realize the $50,000 isn't going to cover a city planner.
Well, not full-time.
No, but we have other funds included in that we're paying contracted planning services as well. Just to note, there are funds that we've had to pay out for contracted planning services because there's too much of that for me to handle on my own. So together it would cover a part-time employee or maybe even a flex full-time 30 hours.
I think, we do have a website. I don't think it's user-friendly. I think the template that we're using isn't great, but if we have somebody, I can even volunteer some of my time to upkeep some of the Facebook page, something like that. It's something I would be willing to volunteer to do for communication-wise.
I'll cut those trees down.
I do think we need.
I was gonna say, I think there.
I do think we need planning is where we need to focus.
I hate to see some of the stuff with the forestry really go, because I think even if we're doing little things within the city to advance the park and enhancement, that's a positive thing. And as much as it is that, we use the trees as an example here, that's progressive to take care of things that are needed. As much as taking $6,000 out of the budget to do that, it's a position where you have to have a professional come in and do those things. I mean, it costs money. So, if there's ways that we can cut corners here and there and nip and tuck, fine. If there's donations that we can go out and solicit, such as if Brian needs equipment, is there people we can solicit to see if that money can be donated and earmarked towards that specific item to help cut that cost?
Only problem I have with something like that is that as a city, we are responsible legally. If a kid gets hurt with our equipment because it's not up to standard, we're gonna pay the price. Okay? When I coached traveling teams, and it was grounded to our heads that we had to have the equipment to keep us out of lawsuits. Because one time, a girl was using an unauthorized helmet, got hit in the head, it split, and gave her a concussion. The coach didn't catch it, and it caused the leak. So I'm saying something like that too. It'd be nice to go out and find somebody like that. There are very few
No, I'm
sporting
talking
events.
about donated money. So,
Right, or donated money, that would be fine too.
Yeah, that's all I'm talking
But
about.
with it coming up now, we're registering right now. I think it's something that should stay. I personally, I know everybody's upset, and I know everybody was having a problem with $17 because you're on fixed incomes. But the thing is, you have to realize that so is everybody else. We have a bunch of retired people right here. We're on fixed incomes, and this isn't easy. But it's $17.
I think also, Steve, though, one of the comments I get back is, it's at $17 this year, was it next year, was it the following year, as it continues to go up.
Right. But we don't bring in money any other way.
I understand that.
No other way. You cannot have a city function without these little increases, and that's why we did them. Is it so that they were little, not big. We did the big one to keep us afloat even, but now we do it just to make sure that we can keep doing the things in the city that we want. I know it's not fair, but I think the things that are on that board, I think we need to keep. That's my opinion, because I think they're a part of the city that we need to do, like the asphalt for that extra overflow parking. I don't know if any of you have ever been to the Fall Festival, but we are running out of room, and that's a great thing. So if we can put in a little more parking, that is a benefit to us as a city. The trees, I think, is very important. I can tell you, we had an event here on Saturday that involved a lot of Pleasant View people, tons of Pleasant View people. And they could not quit raving about our parks and our facilities and the things that we've done. So the trees, yes, they're important. The softball equipment, I feel, is very important. As the chief said, it's a tool that is good for him, but if he doesn't need it, okay. I could say that would be something. But if it's something they need to help them do their jobs, then it's important. So as far as I'm looking at, if we were to do the 5.11, I would not recommend removing anything off that list. We can still help and get donations or things like that, but those are things that I think for $19,000 are pretty important. So.
And at the real-time 911, understand a call comes in, it's taken by a call taker. That's relayed to a dispatcher who in turn relays it to the officer. Sometimes there's a lag, 30 seconds to 2 minutes. And if the officer's listening to the lady screaming what's going on in real time, it's a very beneficial thing.
I I do see that as a safety issue, not just for the police, but also for the citizens to be able to have access to that real time. So as far as that goes, I think that is something really important we need to keep in mind. As far as the sports equipment, what do we charge for participation in our sport?
$40 for baseball, softball, I believe.
Is that something where we can recoup some of that money by increasing the fee?
So we've talked about that in the past. The issue we run into is if we're not consistent with our neighboring communities, then the kids just sign up in our neighbors. So we do have a little bit of flexibility there. Each city looks at it a little differently as to whether they include a jersey or this or that or the other, and so we kind of have a little bit of independence there. But if we look too far at the registration fees, then we put ourselves out of sorts, and then people will just sign up somewhere else.
Right, and I do know.
So
that
we're happy
already
to
do
review that, and I'm happy to have the parks director do an assessment of what our neighboring fees are, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think I would like that, to go that way, to be able to.
If there's two other council members that want us to give us that direction, then we can have
Sure. But because I don't think the neighboring communities are so far away that they would have to travel, but also the most important thing is having access somewhere for sports. I don't know that we need to offer them all through Harrisville. I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, in some of our cases, we don't offer a whole lot of anything because we don't have a basketball facility. We do not, and we are very limited on our baseball facilities. And so, basically, we're already going out to Plain City and Far West, even though they're Harrisville teams. And we have basically helping support their parks. And I know that, for some people who are with youth, that's a sore spot. But I know that as we look down the road, yes, with some of our developments, we're going to be looking at better park facilities that can start bringing in some of those things. But that's down the road a few years. So,
And not that I want to give everything to the neighboring communities. That's not what I'm saying. Just
I know that.
ideas.
Yeah, we provide what we can provide. We can't do anything else. Well, you've heard from us all. What do you need to propose?
I do.
Actually, I think I heard from you that you are leaning towards the tax increase. Is that kind of what I'm understanding?
I am.
Okay.
I am, and if you want to know, out of the three, I think a code enforcement is really important, and then you could probably, with some of that money, go after maybe a person who can help work on the website and make it a little easier and do the things that you need, because they don't have to be a full-time employee.
No.
Maybe they can be contracted for a certain time and do work, and that's it.
What I understand is not as much as employee, but all of a sudden we have to buy a website. And it's gonna cost us money to go in that direction with an IT person.
So,
I mean, right now our domain is free.
our website, we pay, every other year, we pay a domain fee of approximately $1,500 to own the domain cityofharrisville.com.
Sure.
But we do not pay, we have a free portal that we had a previous employee that had some web design background, and he revamped the entire website, and then we just maintain it here in the city.
What are your thoughts on a planner?
Well, a planner is important. I really think it is. But there's a lot of things that I look at too when it comes to businesses and things like that right now. Yeah, all of a sudden, Pleasant View is exploding with new businesses.
All about location.
Yeah, it's about location. And so right now, we have some location, but it's not something that is pursued, and a planner would help.
Right.
But I think it would have to be a person that has a full-time, and that even if we raise the 5.11, it's not gonna bring in a full-time planner. They're gonna require a lot more money than that,
So let's go back.
$50,000.
Can you go back and give a definition of what we're talking about as a planner? Because what you're telling me is in the business sense, that's not what I got last time.
So a planner does a variety of things.
Yeah.
They balance, what we currently utilize is a contracted planner who bounces our applications against our code and writes staff memos, and when we receive a commercial site plan, it has to meet certain code in our land use regulations, and so they conduct their analysis with that, as well as the engineer. The engineer does all the improvements and how it's going to function, and the planner does it meet the land use code? And currently we contract for that a little bit. The last year, 18 months, we've had some assistance with that. But planners do actively, or they proactively go out and seek businesses to bring in. They work on your general plan. They keep the moderate income housing reports up to date. They attend meetings. I've been in a lot of the meetings for housing subcommittees and things like that myself, but planners are often attending those meetings. There are very time-consuming conversations with planning. How about that? When
Where
people
you have
reach
been
out.
kind of filling some of those, do you feel like that's something that can be done with a 30-hour-a-week position, or 25 or something like that?
So the challenge is going to get the commitment level. If it's somebody's, the mayor and I have talked about this recently, if it's someone's part-time job and they have a part-time job alone, then typically there's a pretty good commitment there. But sometimes when you get an unbalanced amount of time with part-time work, then sometimes it's a challenge. But
Right, so if it's somebody's working 2 part-time jobs, but if someone were to just seek a part-time planning position,
depends
is that
on who we
something
get for an
doable?
application. We'd have to open a new position, because that would be a new position with the city. We would
Right.
have to open and take applications for it. And
But I guess my question is that something time-wise you feel like would be an adequate amount
it's a hard question.
to be able to do what they need to do, to
Yeah.
fill the purpose that we want them to do?
certainly it would.
Can I answer that? Because
Yeah.
it's my goal is to answer questions that other people don't want to. No.
Hey.
To talk about the things that you've talked about in this meeting would take a full-time person working 40 hours a week or more at Harrisville City.
Okay, and that's what I need to know.
And I would also tell you, this is the biggest risk to Harrisville City right now for the next 5 years is the lack of a planner. Quite frankly, everyone in this room should thank Jennie for her efforts in doing it. But the amount of requirements that the state has put on cities in the last 2 years, 80% of them are planning based.
Yeah.
With the growth and the growing up that Harrisville is having right now, it is your biggest risk as far as litigation and audits not happening.
See, and I think that's fantastic information to have.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because I think, not knowing that puts us at a disadvantage, and we don't want to be at risk for those things. And so that's something we really need to prioritize.
And I can say,
as a
you talk
council.
about bringing businesses. I was on a call the other day with the economic development person in a city down south, Southern Salt Lake. And he worked almost exclusively for 9 months on one project,
Yeah.
going
Okay.
through all the different things. So granted, it's a much different project to write a big project, but
Sure.
the amount of time just in plan reviews and subdivision developments and those type of things, I mean,
So you brought up an interesting question as far as the risks. And you said planner, and that was one of our areas that we're at most risk in the city. What other areas are we at risk?
to be honest, I could answer that, but we would do that in a closed session.
Okay,
I'm
that's
not,
fine.
I'm not gonna publicly state all the reasons we
No.
are at risk for litigation. Yeah, and I don't mean that rudely, but
No, it's not.
there's a lot of risk, many of which have been talked about. I mean, you guys are familiar with the buildings and what is happening.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I know that being out of code puts it at risk.
Yeah.
That's a huge risk.
And really, if we wanna have that conversation, I'm happy to have a closed session and talk about some of those things more directly. Again, outside of.
Sure. this publicly.
Well, I think it's an interesting part as far as balancing between what the needs are of the city, but also making sure that we're not in a liability situation, because that costs us hundreds of thousands of dollars when you have to go into those types of situations.
And that's a really good point. I don't mean to extend this conversation, but we talk about saving $6,000 for trees. If we have one accident with one of those trees, it's going to be $60,000.
Yes, go tripping down the stairs.
Well, yes, but but I think that we're starting to understand where we actually are with what the city needs, and not just a nicety of a tax base and trying to not raise taxes, because we want our city to continue to exist and not have to be dissolved. So one bad lawsuit can make that happen. So I think if that's one of our biggest risks, then that's one of the things we need to prioritize as a planner, in my opinion.
Appreciate the time that you guys have put into this as far as the city staff, and your willingness to sacrifice in areas to try to make things a little easier as far as this. And appreciate the public too, the concerns they've had, being able to listen of what the needs are as far as from our citizens. That's, Weiss still having the right decision. At the same time, it makes it a little easier when it becomes clear the balances of looking forward as well as taking care of our needs. So thank you. I just want to say that.
So I guess my question now is, are we ready to make a decision on what we need to do so that we can make a motion to move forward?
If you guys have
Yes,
to
that's what I'm asking is
We can make a motion.
I guess.
We can make a motion, and we can, I know there's still a lot of discussion. We can make a motion if we did the 5.1, and we can not have to make a solid prioritize, but we can have further discussion.
Sure.
Because I think what would be good is to listen to some of the stuff that he has to give to us.
I think
You need to talk into the microphone.
I'm sorry. And we could just have further discussion on that. Put it in there that we will have and prioritize down in the meeting
Okay.
in the future.
So would that just mean a special meeting, or just in the next meeting? Is that what you're proposing?
We could just go to the next meeting.
Yeah.
We could
You just can adopt the budget, and at any time you can
prioritize.
prioritize
Okay.
items. yeah.
So adopt the budget and then decide on the certified tax rate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the certified tax rate has to be
No,
adopted with
certified
the
has to be
budget.
adopted.
Yes, yes.
It's
That's
those
what I'm
three.
saying.
You have to
Yes,
identify
those-
which one.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So before we vote, I would just like to tattle on myself that before I was really leaning towards just maintaining the tax rate. I think it would be a huge disservice to the community to lower the tax rate, to put ourselves back in the position that we'd have to do a gigantic correction. But if we are still in risk of losing, our incorporation, that's one streaming service a month. That's $17. That's something I'm willing to sacrifice because that will apply to me, and it will be higher than the $17. So that you guys are not in this in isolation. It applies to all of us up here as well. So I think I will. Let me get the wording correct. We want to make a motion here. I'm okay with that. Unless somebody wants to.
So if you don't mind including the proposed certified tax rate.
So, I would like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2411, a resolution adopting the fiscal year 2024 final budget for Harrisville City and the Harrisville Community Reinvestment Agency and the 4 Mile Special. Is that the correct one?
Nope.
Nope,
No.
sorry. Just the fiscal year budget.
Yeah.
Yes, we probably need to
It should be.
wait for a
sorry.
second, right?
That's
And
a.
after we have done all this, we have to probably go on and. Brody, help me out here. We have
Done with the discussion, we just move on to the next issue.
Okay.
It should be the 2025 fiscal.
25?
Sorry,
Okay.
that was a typo.
So we are done with that discussion on item C. We're moving on to D. And now we're going to go back to the resolution. It's also going to include the 4 Mile Special Service District that we had just talked about, correct?
Okay, so I just said the wrong year.
Yes.
Okay, try that again.
Try it again.
I would like to make a motion on the action to adopt resolution 2411, a resolution adopting the fiscal year 2025 final budget for Harrisville City, Harrisville Community Reinvestment Agency, and the 4 Mile Special Service District, and to adopt the certified tax rate of 5.11.
No.
No?
That one, 0.00. That's
The very bottom one.
1562.
That's the one, 0.001562.
Second.
all right. I have a motion and a second. This is also a roll call vote. So Councilmember Christensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett,
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilhelmsen.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. Good discussion. I appreciate all your heartfelt and all the work for staff. This is an enormous undertaking to do this. All right, item E, discussion possible action to surplus the admin vehicle. Jennie Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is just a brief item. We have identified an opportunity to share costs in an effort to reduce maintenance and vehicle costs. We have opportunity to share with the police department an admin vehicle. The Jeep Renegade is not used as frequently as we thought it would be, and it actually has very low miles, so will bring a pretty good resale rate. But just to be clear, the sale proceeds from the Jeep that we're asking to surplus will go back into the motor pool. This isn't general fund money. Just to be clear that it will go, we have our own motor pool that we pay for our vehicles out of. So this money will go back into the motor pool, and our plan is to either send the vehicle to auction or sell it at fair market value. And we'll put that money back into the motor pool, and we'll just share costs with the needs of the admin team and who utilizes a city vehicle. It makes sense to share. So we're asking for permission to surplus that vehicle.
I'll make that proposal that we do,
Okay, you just need to approve the sale of the surplus vehicle.
Thank you. I approve it.
Okay.
We approve this message.
Is this a nod or is this?
No, I need a second.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed then? All right, thank you. That motion passes. On to item 7. I know it's getting late. This is a public comment section. This is an opportunity for those of you in the audience, if you want to come and sit, or not sit, stand at the podium and have a comment. You have 3 minutes. Please come up and state your name.
Been a long night. Corey Dinsdale. I just live over here on the other side of the park. You guys are on a different wavelength than most of the citizens, I can tell you that. Stop spending money. $17 doesn't seem like much, but you've got 20 or 50 entities all asking for the same amount of money. And it does that just by way of information. Maybe some of you have heard this, as we're talking budget, it's going to get worse. Find Me Water System is installing secondary water meters. They're starting at the south end and the north end, and they're coming this way. And I had a long discussion with the CFO of Find Me Water System. It's all being mandated by the state, so don't blame them. But it's going to cost each of us thousands of dollars. And so that's coming up along with all the others. So hold your costs, because we're going to be paying in other ways.
Thank you.
Hi, I was here earlier. But my name is Isaac Thomas. I just wanted, I've been meaning to do this for a long time, but I wanted to thank the City Council for something you guys did a few months ago. I was picking my son up from Majestic Elementary, and I was just waiting for him to come out. saw a little boy almost get hit by a car. It was really scary and really close. And I emailed you guys about it, asking to see if there's something we could do. I remember Councilman Christensen emailed me back, and it felt really fast. You guys were really prompt, and within just a few weeks, I had a crossing guard there. It's made a huge difference. So I just want to thank you guys for getting back to me so quickly and acting, and it's already made a big difference, and will continue to do so. So thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Karras. I don't want to disappoint anybody that expects me to get up. Please, 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 we can't get to your website. And my compatriot here put in his own email address, and we can't go see the budget. He said it was published. I went to the public website, and it wasn't there, the amended budget that you said you just did. You had a hearing on a budget that just changed within hours almost, that you presented and you all approved. You've got it. We weren't able to see it. Doesn't matter because you're in charge. But I'm going to say something like I heard at the Weaver Fire District, who just raised our taxes, and they had some great needs. They presented a great presentation. But one of the individuals from Pleasantview got up and said, 5 years. You guys disappoint me. You have raised taxes every year for 5 years. You're on your track. You're heading for that. And the message he gave was, do your job. $17, yes, you're paying it, but not everyone else wants to pay it because there's everything else. We sat here, some of us look at the budget for the council and see $6,000 for the youth council. What was spent last year? Did any of you look at it? What was it? $600. What was it before that? $2,000. Is there any fat? Yes. Is that the only one that you can come up with? How many of you looked at there and said, you went off the recommendations, and yes, trees are important, got to cut them down, and you can always find everything to say, woe is us, we can't dare take care of that. But listen to the public, okay?
Thank you. All right, I'm going to close public comments, seeing as no one else is coming up. We're going on to number 8, Mayor Council follow-up. We're going to do staff reports first. We're going to excuse our Director, Brian Five, tonight. Director Schinzel.
Council, if you have been able to get out and venture through the city at all, in the last week, you've seen on 2000 North, 1100 North, and 2425 North all got restriped. Still some turn pockets and arrows. They're coming in a little later time this next week with some crosswalks. That was in conjunction with the Safe Sidewalks to School program and just overall safety and better understanding of where to drive on our roads and how to drive on the road systems. 2000 was the most impacted. We put a center lane in so the people from Old Iron can turn in and out at a lot safer rate. That hasn't been there. As we go on, we are working diligently on getting our Public Works building closer and closer to completion. Hopefully we're ready for the late end of year move-in date. Again, we're also at that time of year, it seems early, but we are going through all the vehicles that we do for snowplow, that we use for snowplowing, and getting them ready to go within the next 30 days. You'll probably see some trucks with sanders and plows on them, knowing that snow's right around the corner as much as we don't want that idea. A lot of other things going on, a lot of development going on. big development off of Washington Boulevard. So we're just staying busy and keeping our nose to the grindstone.
Thank you. Chief Wilson.
I don't have a ton to report this month. I'm thankful that construction out here on the highway is starting to wind up. We've had quite a few accidents. That's why this construction's been on in the intersection right here. So I'm glad that's getting finished up. We're just getting ready for school to start, all the kids to be back in school, and the chaos of walking to school the first few weeks. I made contact with our crossing guard a couple weeks ago, and she's set to return, so we're happy about that. We're happy about the improvements to the crosswalk over by Majestic. So we're hoping for an uneventful first week of school.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Administrator Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple of things to report. The first one is our moderate income housing report was submitted timely to the state. In fact, the mayor chairs the Weaver Housing Subcommittee. I don't know if you're aware that we've started a housing subcommittee last year, and she chairs the committee where all the county cities in Weaver County discuss these housing issues that we're having with the state legislation, and we're very hopeful that we can make some progress with that. But all cities in the state actually submitted on time, so I was impressed to hear that all the cities were able to meet that deadline. And the other thing I have to report is that I attended an animal control meeting this morning at the Weber County Shelter, and they are proposing some changes to their shelter staff, and so they run on a calendar year budget, not a fiscal year budget, so we can anticipate discussing that in our next budget retreat. Just a heads up on that.
Thank you. Council follow-up. Matt, you got anything tonight? Okay. Grover?
A couple of things. First of all, we had an enjoyable meal down at the senior center, and as much, it's something that those who attend really enjoy. So we're continuing with that, and people that are there appreciate it. It's a nice service because we provide a meal as far as the main course, and then everybody does a potluck dish. And it's always fun to see who brings what. Maxine Brain always brings cherry tarts. You can plan on it, and she gets the really that goes on top. So, can't believe that. But a couple of other things that I was concerned about, I wanted to address looking at the budget, or not the budget, excuse me, but the agenda. I think sometimes the things that are going on, I wondered if we could switch the agenda up. Maybe since the public comments are always last, maybe they need to be in the middle. I think some of the things that have been here, if we can address them on specific things, the questions that I know in the meetings we've had, if they can be addressed later on or followed up on, do they always have to come last? Number two, the reports. I think a lot of the fun, some of the neat things that are happening, people get up and they leave, and they never hear it, unless they read it in the minutes. But hearing it from our directors makes a big difference. Maybe something like that. I just think that the items ought to be looked at a little bit different, and maybe comments. It's a thought, that's all it is, as far as communication and hearing what the public has to say and learning what's going on. I know this is timely here as far as the budget's concerned. The last thing is I think we need to do is, even though we have passed this, what am I talking about? The tax rate. We need to look internally. Brought up $6,000 of youth, maybe they need to cut it back to 3. I know there are places that we can pull that money in within our budget. We talked about a bunch today. If we have to, we do that. But if these things are important that we do, then we need to look internally. That's our responsibility as far as this. So I think this on discussion of talking about the budget, some items that we have to lean out, let's look at that again. Because I think we need to cover ourselves in some places, but it just shows the fact that we're doing our jobs and trying to keep everything in line. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
The other thing is on parks, and You know, we talk a lot about the parks, but even just doing something simple and progressive once in a while. People notice that, and that's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Karen?
I don't think I have anything.
Okay. Blair?
I don't have anything.
Okay, Steve?
Just again, thanks to Brian, I wish he was here, but on the event that happened on Saturday, it was a huge success and people were very impressed. In fact, one of the city council women from Pleasant View was there and I said, when are you going to tear down your little one and build a big one like this? And she said, well, as soon as I get pickleball courts, we'll talk. But there were people that were very impressed with our parks, and I think we need to let him know that I think they're doing a good job.
Thank you. I want to, I don't have a whole lot to follow up either, just thank you for all the work that was gone in tonight, a lot of effort on staff's part, and I appreciate that. And with that, motion to adjourn, please.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No one's opposed. Okay, thank you.
Jenny,
Yeah.
can I sign up for one day on the convention?
I think you guys sign up for Thursday only.